Hi there, in this video we're going to look at creating this. This is an animated GIF that can go out via social media and be shared via Facebook and Instagram. It's not a video, so it just plays by itself. We love them. This is the way to do it to keep the file size nice and small. We're going to look at the way to do it when you don't want banding like this. The file size is huge. Let's go and look at all the tricks and tips to make a GIF and to make it super small for your sharing social goodness. Okay, so first thing we'll do is open up something to export as a GIF. Under 10 exporting, let's open up this one that says pie chart GIF. Okay, open that up. It's an After Effects project. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the process. We'll show you the do's and don'ts for animated GIFs. The actual physical process is not that hard, but there's a few things you need to take into account because file size can blow GIFs out of the water, and there's things you can do to minimize that. So we're going to export this one as is. It's this like little thing going on here. How long is it going to be? The length is quite important. 5 seconds is quite long for a GIF. Okay, 20 seconds is really long. Anything more than that's probably not even going to work. Okay, so the shorter it is, the better it is. So that's one of the things we need to do. So all I've done is my work area. I've dragged the end of it because that's kind of where it finishes, right? And I'm happy for it to loop from there on. So I'm going to go to composition. Let's go to add to Adobe Media Encoder. Cool. And in here, all we need to do is make sure that it's an MP4, which is this drop down here, H.264, leave everything preset. And what you'll notice is I'll just show you in here. You don't have to go in, but you'll notice that it is clipped to my workspace area automatically. You can see down here, you can see it's already clipped and it's clipped to my work area. If you want the whole thing, you can switch it there. Cool, so that's the only thing we need to do. Where we're going to put it, I'm going to put mine on my desktop in our AFX files. This is going to be pie chart, and this one's going to be full color. Okay, I'm going to save this one here, and we're going to do another version. We'll get them to render at the same time, so jump back into After Effects. Because some of the problems with this one is that we added a vignette. Okay, you can see it at the top here. I'm going to unlock it, and it's added this gradient effect all the way through. So if I delete that, it's going to reduce the colors a lot. Okay, it looks like just kind of like 1 or 2 colors, but there's actually thousands of colors that make up this gray blend. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the vignette. Try not to use any gradients. Some of the other things you can do is get rid of things like motion blur, because watch this, when these things are moving, can you see it's actually generating a whole bunch of other colors. It's not just that kind of purple that we're using. There's a bunch of mixtures of that in the background to make this blur happen. If I see this major switch here for motion blur, it cuts down the colors to just this plus the background plus a little bit of in between colors, but not as many as this. So motion blur off can save file size as well. So it's up to you whether you can live with it out having motion blur. Animated GIFs, you just have to really. The smaller the file size, the faster it loads and the better it does in social media. Cool, so I'm going to export this one as well. Let's go to Adobe Media Encoder. That's why I love the Adobe Media Encoder. You see, we don't have to, you can render from After Effects, the option just underneath. You can go to there, and that will stop After Effects from working while it's rendering. Whereas this, you can queue them all up here, and when you're ready, hit play and go back to After Effects and start working. I'm going to save them onto my desktop again, and what do I call this one? So I'm going to call this one Simple Colors. Click Save. And we're going to hit play, and it'll just render them both out. The one thing you'll notice is down here, can you see it's playing through? Okay, it's rendering this one, and it's taking a while. Why? Because it has to render motion blur and all these extra colors, mainly the motion blur. So it chugs along doing it. We'll speed it up now. Okay, we're back, and I just want to show you, can you see how fast the second one goes? Because there's no motion blur and no gradient. Okay, so After Effects likes it more as well. So let's go now and convert them into a GIF. To do it, the best way is to use Photoshop. So I've got Photoshop open here. This can be a bit stressful on your machine, so you'll notice I've closed down After Effects and Media Encoder. The less open, the better for this. Okay, it depends on how hardcore your GIF is. So we're going to go to File, Open. Okay, and on our desktop, we have AFX files, and in here, there's the two. So the simple color and the full color. Let's look at doing the full color one first. First of all, look at the file sizes for the MP4. They're exactly the same files, but this one has a vignette and a motion blur on it, so it's physically nearly twice the size. But let's open it in Photoshop. All we're going to do is click open and then go to File, go to Export, and go to this one here. You have to use Save for Web. If you're using the new fancy one, Export As, you're not allowed to. So Save for Web Legacy. Okay, so that took ages to open. So if you're finding yours takes a long time to open, don't worry, it does. So let's first of all just export it as is, just to see some comparable sizes. So what we want to do is stick it on preset. Let's start with the top here, the GIF 128 colors dithered. So at least we know we're all on the kind of same page. It's going to take a little while to readjust this whole thing. Cool. And what we can do is you can have a maximum of 256 colors in a GIF. That's why you get that kind of like weird grainy look from a GIF. Okay, the lower you go, the smaller the file size, the quicker it will play. So 128 in this case, I'm going to go all the way to the maximum, 256. So this square here is all the colors that it can use. And let's just click save. Put mine on my desktop in my After Effects files, and let's click save. This can take a little while as well, depending on how big your GIF is. Cool, let's do the second version. So file open, there's another MP4, and it is the simple colored version. Cool, and let's go to file, export, save for web. Everything just runs fast because everything's easier. Cool, pick everything. It's gonna use the same as last time, so I don't need to change anything. Just gotta wait for it to stop having the beach ball of doom. Come on. All right, let's hit save. Same thing, save, kick back, relax. All right, so let's go and check the file sizes. So on my desktop, AFX files, here is my two GIFs. There's one and there's the other one. And you can see the difference in size. Okay, so still quite a simple animation, but without the motion blur and the vignette, it's a lot smaller. Okay, so what is it? So it's about a third the size. Okay, so in terms of file sizes, if you get near 2 megabytes, you're getting too big. Okay, so this one I could live with this. The only trouble with it, I guess, is that it will take longer to load. Okay, so say you're putting it up on Facebook or Instagram, it just won't load very quickly because the file size is so big. So the lower, the better. And I think there are some restrictions on file size for Instagram. You have to double check. But they both look good. Okay, I'm previewing mine on a Mac by hitting spacebar. If you're on a PC, I'm not sure. Maybe right click it and open it up in Internet Explorer. That'll be able to preview it for you. Okay, but this is good. It's an animated GIF. I can share it around. Let's look at some of the other things you can do to get the file size down. Is in here in Photoshop, I'm going to close down the full colored one. Okay, I'm using my simple colored version. I'm going to go to File, Export, Save for Web. And what you want to do is play around with the image size here. Mine's at Full HD. There's never a need for Full HD animated GIFs. Okay, so I'm going to have to wait for this thing to stop spinning, and then I'm going to put it down to a better size. You might also play around with the format. We know that Instagram and Facebook like a more of a square format, so you might design it in After Effects, because this one here would do really well as a square one because there is nothing really going on the sides here, so I could adjust that. It's probably easiest to do it in After Effects before you come in here. Okay, so in here, what size does it need to be? I don't know. Have a little look at recommended sizes for your specific social media application. Okay, but let's say I want mine to be 500 pixels high. Okay, the other thing we need to double check down the bottom here is looping. Now mine looped once, okay, that's by default. If you want us to keep looping, that's pretty much how everyone wants their GIFs. If you tick this one here, it'll just keep playing and playing and playing. The other thing we might do is that we're using 256 colors, but we just don't really need it because it's not that big a deal, okay, or not a lot going on. So I can get to 128. That generally does exactly what I need it to. Looks fine, but keeps the file size down. Once this is finished, we'll click save. Okay, I'm going to save it out here, and this is going to be my 128 colors. Let's just see the difference. Cool, in here, my exercise files, 128, you can see it's a lot smaller. So it's about half the size, a little less, okay, and it's still looking pretty good. There's enough colors making it happen, and it now loops. Awesome, so that's how to make an animated GIF. Let's look at things you can't do, okay? Our little bar graph was perfect, but if you use one of the exercise files in here, so I'm gonna do this in Photoshop, I've made a little live action version. So this in your export file, see this one called largegif.mp4. So I've made this little video, okay? It's only 1 second long, okay? I just wanna show you the difference between simple stuff, like our lovely bar graph that just has simple colors, even with a vignette, and then this one here, which is live action, which has got millions of colors. Let's see what happens. Some Photoshop file open. Let's find him. He is in my exercise files, number 10. Large GIF. First of all, it might not open. Well, so it'll definitely open here, sorry. The bit that it might not open is export save for web. You might be sitting here for a million years for this thing to load, okay? Especially if it's more than a couple of seconds long. I've done this with, with longer stuff, with full action, my Photoshop just won't do it. Okay, so this is fine. We're gonna do the exact same settings as we had before. Okay, we'll leave it at HD. And the colors wise, we'll put it to as many as we can use. You might not be able to hear it, but my poor little laptop, the fans have come on, the machine's cooking, trying to do this sort of stuff. It's at save. Go, I'm gonna call it large GIF. I'll stick it in here in my exercise files. That went faster than I expected. Let's have a little look at how big it is. Desktop, After Effects files. And here's my animated GIF. Hey, it's only 17 whole megabytes. Okay, so our earlier one, what did we get it down to? Our smallest one was 0.1 megabyte, and this is up to 17, and that's only 1 second, and this one here is about 5 seconds long. So there's just some things you can't do. Live action's not good, simple colors are great. Now let's have a little look at one last thing. Okay, there's two last things before you go. One is that we went through Photoshop, remember we went file open and we did the export as save as web to get our GIF. In a previous version of Adobe Media Encoder, okay, we use it for After Effects, we say send to Media Encoder, it opens up in here, we pick MP4, and then we pass it on to Photoshop to make. There was actually an option in here that said export as animated GIF. Animated GIFs became super lame and nobody wanted to do them because video was cool and new. So they removed it from this. Double check that your version of Media Encoder, like this was made in 2017, so check that when you got the new versions, they haven't put it back in here. I imagine they will because it is becoming popular again. So just check. You might be able to skip that step. Okay, I see there was two more things. That was one of them. And the last one is to check out this man. His name is James Curran. I love he does animated GIFs, period. Okay, so he has, if we have a look at some of his stuff, the cool thing about his is that they loop perfectly forever. They've got some sort of like hypnotic, I don't know what's about them, but I can watch them for hours. Maybe not hours, but you can just look at his to get an idea of like pure animated graphics, and that loop perfectly. There's some just brilliant loops that he's kind of come up with. Okay, it's only a few seconds long, but you can just keep on going. So there's lots of stuff in here. Let's have a quick little look. Oh, I love that stuff he did. Okay, so go and check out his for ideas of especially how he gets into looping. If you want to actually see his technique, on YouTube there is how to create GIFs, Adobe Creative Cloud. Okay, this one here is the 13th of April, 2016, and that's got him with an interview. It's quite long, okay, but it's really cool. I found it useful anyway. All right, my friends, that is the lowdown on animated GIFs. Let's get on to our class project next. Exciting.